All right, hello. Welcome to another video lesson. Um, Hopefully this should be uh, not too long because we are wrapping up our discussion about Jeremiah today. Okay. Um, so just a quick recap. Before Jeremiah, we looked at Isaiah, um, his main message was, um, you know, destruction to Israel is coming, but there will be hope. And we looked at what that hope was, and all the prophecies about the Messiah that were coming, that he made. And then Jeremiah we looked at yesterday, and Jeremiah had a similar message, but a little more specific. His message was to stop worshiping idols, stop abusing people, right? And he had a rough life. He kept getting beat up, kept having to run away and hide from these people that were beating him up, but he was persistent in his message. And then, where we kind of ended yesterday was, the Babylonians are on their doorstep. It's about to go down. And Jeremiah's message was, just let it happen. Just accept this reality. The more you fight it, the more you resist, the worse it's going to be. And they didn't like that message either, so they put him in prison. And we're going to kind of pick up from there. All right, so the Babylonians are about to attack. But first, let's look at a brief passage. This comes from Jeremiah chapter 31. And it says, "The days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. It will not be like the covenant that I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, a covenant that they broke, though I was their husband, says the Lord. But this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says the Lord. I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. No longer shall they teach one another or say to each other, know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, says the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity and remember their sin no more." So Jeremiah also doing a little prophecy as well. And what he's describing here is what we call the new covenant. All right. So in the sense that we have the Old Testament in the Bible, and then the New Testament, sometimes it's helpful to think of it as like the Old Covenant and then the New Covenant, right? And so what he's saying here is, Jeremiah is saying that God will make the people anew. They're in exile right now, and he's going to bring hope out of their exile. But more important than that, he's going to write a new covenant for them. All right. We've traced this covenant all semester long, from Abraham, right, to David, right, to Moses, then to David, and those times God's just sort of reaffirming his covenant. What this prophecy is saying, you know what? We're going to start over. We're going to have a new covenant. All right. And so, what do you think this new covenant, or should I say, who is this new covenant going to be based on? Right? And this third point here says, each person will know God intimately and personally. Right? How do you know God intimately and personally? Through another person. Right? Hint, hint, wink, wink, Jesus. Right? And so that's why I was kind of trying to frame it as Old Covenant versus New Covenant, Old Testament versus New Testament, where in the New Testament and the New Covenant, it's all about Jesus. Okay? So for your first private comment, first question I want to ask you is, Well, I just kind of answered it, but, tell me in your own words here, what will this new covenant be all about? Or better yet, who will this new covenant be about? How, and look at the second point here. God will write a new covenant on their hearts instead of tablets made of stone. How do you interpret that? Okay, what does that mean to you? Just answer that question in a private comment. Okay, yes, it's we're talking about Jesus, but what does that mean to you? There's really no sort of right or wrong answer here, but I want you to just take a crack at it. Okay, how does God write a new covenant on our hearts with Jesus? Okay. All right, you can pause the video to answer that if you need to. I'm going to move on. So, back to where we were with the story of Jeremiah. And this is a major event in the history of Israel, the Babylonian Exile. So time has ran out for Jerusalem, and this happens in 587 BC, 587 years before Christ. Time is up, all right? All those hundreds and hundreds of years of warning from Jeremiah and Isaiah, all right? Time is up. Babylonians attack the city, burn it down, and destroy the temple. And this is what people are really upset about, because that was very much part of their identity, right? Their religious life. Without their temple, their holy place of worship, they really, it really messes them up. So the people are exiled, even worse. They are kicked out of the land. For your second private comment, I want you to tell me what an exile is. And I kind of just gave you a hint there and pretty much the answer, but I'm thinking that you probably have talked about exiles in other classes before. So I'm curious, just tell me what is your understanding of what an exile is. Okay, and that's your second private comment. If you aren't totally sure, use the context clues I just gave you. All right, Babylon attacks Jerusalem, burns it, and destroys their temple, and kick people out of their home. So use that knowledge and tell me, what is an exile? Okay. All right, moving on. As the Babylonians are attacking, Jeremiah is still telling people to stay and to give in to the Babylonians. I kind of mentioned yesterday that Jeremiah is put in prison again, and shortly right before the Babylonians attack, and there's this scene where the king of Israel comes down to Jeremiah and he's like, "What the heck, man? This is all your fault." And Jeremiah's like, "Really? You gonna blame me?" But anyways, he's like, "I told you." And again, my message is the same to you. Just give in. Don't make it worse. This is going to happen, all right? I've been telling you this. Jeremiah's been telling you this, all right? There's nothing you can do. But of course, the people don't listen. And as as the Babylonians are attacking, some of the people don't listen, and they run away and they flee to Egypt, and they force Jeremiah to go with them. And this is really the last we hear from Jeremiah, and it's most likely that he was killed in Egypt, because we really don't hear anything else. So the life of Jeremiah was pretty rough. It didn't start well, didn't go well, and didn't really end well either. So it's too bad. So to kind of wrap up and put a pin on Jeremiah, and this will be it for today. If we're judging Jeremiah as like a prophet, and a prophet whose job is to warn people about, this destruction that's coming. I guess we could say Jeremiah was a failure. No one listened to him, and no one took his word, right? In that sense, I guess he kind of failed. But what's important about Jeremiah here is that his message, the words of the man outlive the man himself. His message becomes a seed of hope for the exiles. All right, the exiles who are, they're kicked out of their home and they're living in Babylon. They really end up holding on to the words from Jeremiah. They remember his words and said, "Oh well, he was right, but he also told us there was hope." Right? Him and Isaiah. So they really hang on to those words, that hope of Messiah, right? And it's this hope that our failure and the subsequent suffering because of our failures and our sin, they don't have to be the end of the story for us. God is going to make a new covenant with us. He's going to make us a new people. And they really hang on to that message of hope, right? So that's where we'll end today. And I believe that's going to be it for the prophets, I believe. We might come back to them briefly next week, but we are going to start the wisdom literature soon. All right. So I hope you have a good day and a weekend, and I will talk to you soon. All right. Goodbye.